Hi, Juliette Lee.
Hi, Liv. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. So I will be really happy if you can start by telling us what is your main occupation today?
Yeah. So my name is Juliette Lee. I'm the founders and CEO of Tengyue Educations. So it's an education consulting firm, basically helping foreign firms who are interested in into the China market to figure out how to navigate in the China market. And so I spent the last 10 years in education and mostly focus on the investment side. Previously, I worked in private equities, most focused on K-12 investment, bringing good education curriculum and contents from mainly actually U.S. and U.K. to China. And later on, I also work on the VC side, and also I operate personally. My interest, invested in some kindergartens in China and operating those kindergartens. So before I started this company, I worked for Navitas, which is also one of the biggest international education company headquartered out of the Australia. And I'm the regional head for Greater China, East North Asia. So I have a pretty big, I would say, exposures of global education system, and I'm very passionate about education, and I do believe there's a lot of synergies in different countries in terms of the education system and the offering, and I'm very keen on to leverage that, and particularly given where I come from and my expertise, I wanted to add on the kind of the China story, either helping a foreign company to enter the China market to which is one of the massive, the biggest consumer market in the world. Yeah. But meantime, also I think it's great for the Chinese parents because they're really crying for a high quality international education. So that's what my mission is.
We can see how much passionate you are.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And what brought you to this space, to the education? Well,
so that's a very good question. So I strongly believe education is one of the very few things in this world can completely transform another person's life. I can speak for myself. So I grew up in a ordinary, family in China, and my parents just, pretty, I would say, they're wonderful people, but I grew up in a very average families, and I never even thought about, I went to the schools system. I never even thought about, doing what I'm doing right today without education. Years ago, after I graduated from college, I applied for graduate school in the U.S. And I was very fortunate. I got scholarships, and because otherwise there's no way my family will be able to afford the hefty educations and tuitions in America. So I went to Columbia University in New York City, and that experience completely transformed my life. It really broadened my perspectives, and I feel I completely stand on a new level and see the world very differently, beyond China. And after graduating from Columbia, I was very fortunate to work for the Earth Institute, which is the think tank under Columbia, and focus on sustainable development. And that work that brought me to Africa. So I worked a lot with the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, the Gates Foundations, and traveled all over Africa and did a lot of work on economic development, women's health, and things like that.
And the SDGs.
The SDG, exactly. So back then it was called Millennium Development Goal. So now,
so
it's
this
called
is the
SDG.
start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the person who started it is my boss. He's quite a renowned professor in the U.S. called Professor Jeffrey Sachs.
Jeffrey Sachs,
of course. So I work for him. Is such an amazing guy. He
has a complete course in Coursera about the SDGs.
So
So what was your experience as a child in the China education?
So the Chinese education system is very different, I think, than from Israeli system.
In what ways?
It very much like we call the spoon-fed system. In many ways, I don't think our education system in a very early stage actually posed a lot of pressure to parents and students to acquire a lot of knowledge. So we actually study tons of, I would say, math. Like that's why, there's almost like a stereotype of the Chinese and good at math. But we do study a lot of math and then also other subjects. But a lot of them is based on memorizations. It's very much memorizations rather than, pushing students to have the kind of creative thinking, the independent thinking
problem
side
solving
of it,
and
problem solving skills.
Critical thinking.
Although things are changing, I would say, in the last decades, parents and also the governments realize how important for the to educating the young generations to be more like creative. So they're being more and more push on that side. But the overall, I would say, education system, because largely most of Chinese students go through a public school system, and because the size of China, 1.4 billion people, and it's the government has a pretty much just rigid, I would say, to a certain extent, the curriculum that applied cross country for all those hundreds of millions of children, without adopting any kind of individualized learnings. I would say curriculum for each individual kids. So people pretty much just learn everything at the same pace. Regardless how fast you learn and what kind of way are you learning, things like that.
This is what was in the past or what is happening today?
I think I would say largely it's getting a little better, but still largely is today as well.
How do you transform such a huge education system? I
think that's a great question. It's not going to happen over one night. It's going to be a tremendous task. I would say there's a few aspects I think that will help to transform the education system. One is I would say from the government standpoint, I would say, because China still, we have a very strong government, and government set the education strategy and the policies for the countries. So it's important to have a strong leaders to realize how important to add the kind of creative thinking and independent thinking into the education system. And then, from the policy side of it, try to make a difference. And the second part, I think, technology, it can make a huge difference. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I'm here. I think Israel is one of the most innovative country in the world, just by understanding and, talking to people here, understanding about how they get brought up, what's the school system look like. It got me so many great ideas. Like,
can you give us an example,
things.
Something that caught your eye?
Yeah, so, just like I just came from a talk, from just literally a few minutes ago, they were talking about how Israeli schools, they have two things that it caught my eyes. One is one of the schools that it does like almost like a project-based learning. So they ask all the young children, I think age from maybe 5 to 10 years old, to go in the wood and to build something. They can something creative and something fun, but the kids can decide it. So it's a large group of students, of course, being supervised by adult, but but everything they have to design their. You have to come up with their own ideas, and they have to design, the how to. Achieve those this ideas, these goals, and then what kind of material we need to use or anything, right? So, and it was shocking to me that that Israeli school system or Israeli parents, and in a very early age, they encourage students to do something like this. Like I would not be surprised if they ask the college students, I would say, high school students to do such a things. But for that age group, and it was just amazing. Like the kids in the woods, they will try to figure out. They have to carry some of even the heavy stuff.
And how do you do it? And how do you
exactly. So it's very,
very interesting. We are in an EdTech summit, and you work at EdTech, and the highlight that you take from it from now, not everything, but it's low tech.
Yeah, it's true. But I think
it's not judgmental. I say it's
no, because that's a fundamental. I think that just showed the fundamental teaching pedagogies or methodology that Israeli has is very different from the China system, I would say, that I experienced. It just really encourages students to unlock their potential. Give them a task, and then you have to figure out yourself. And that kind of mentality is, I think, is precious. It's very precious, and no other technology can change.
Can
that,
solve it.
I think technology is really good tools.
Yeah.
Another
for
thing
educators.
For education, exactly.
But it's not a supplement.
No, I don't think it's a supplement. But which I think, for you to build on what you just asked me, like how to transform a large education system, the third part, I would say, it is technology, like right now with the AI, the adaptive deep learning and the deep learning, so we can come up, technology can help us and enable teachers or even students and parents, right, to come up with extremely individualized learning material for each individual kids based on their learning habits, how fast they learn, in what way they're learning. Like, some kids, for instance, they they learn much faster with white noise. They actually prefer, loud learning environment. Some kids are not, right? Some kids are much more visual. Some kids like to, they like to learn through, watching videos and, see something more active. Some
visually.
To read. It's very different. And I think all this adaptive learning can really help, the students in a very young age, the teachers also, to understanding how I can be more effective in teaching this one child versus the other, right?
And you have more information.
Absolutely.
And what is the main vectors today in China that you see in the EdTech world?
Sorry.
What are the main vectors? The main things, goals, that you're working or you're seeing or you're looking for.
Yeah. So one thing that I really love about China these days is a very energetic country. It's almost to the, like if you go to China, I don't know, have you been to China?
No.
Okay.
Not
well,
yet.
I would love to, invite you to come to China.
Great.
It can be quite chaotic, because it's, so many people on the street. But I love the big city, for instance, the Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, those cities. There's a lot of young population. They're very energetic and they're actually very entrepreneur. And they wanted to do something and make a difference. So actually parents these days also, I think Chinese parents probably, I would say among a lot of, parents in other part of the world, probably, are very, they're very, how do you say, they are actually very open for other ideas, and also adapting new technologies. And things. I would say they were pretty.
They're high on openness.
Yeah, very, very open. So for that part, and that's why I encourage Israeli company to come to China, because it is a massive market and the parents are anxious for new ideas, new way of teaching their children. Or if you do well, if you know how to navigate the market, you can really you can find your fans, like I said, and it can be widely successful. And also I think it's going to benefit to the Chinese parents and the Chinese economy ultimately, to train the kids to educate the kids better. Yeah.
So do you have any recommendation? Because some big of our fans, our listeners are edtech entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Some of them are early stage, some of them are later stage. And do you have any recommendation for them if they want to come to the Chinese market? What are the steps? What are the main things that they need to think about?
Yeah, sure. That's very good questions. So I actually did a panel yesterday called Doing Business with China. So, and for me, I think, first of all, I think it's very important to be impatient. One thing I noticed...
Impatient?
To be patient.
Patient.
To be patient. So one thing I noticed, like in Israel, which I really like about this part of Israeli, they're very direct, right? Maybe I hate to... I'm sorry if I don't, sounds like I'm generalizing the population.
No, okay.
But like I like it. It's very straightforward. Like people are, especially at the conference, I met so many... successful entrepreneur. They're very eager to learn about China, and then they wanted to figure out how to do the business. The way that the Chinese operate, especially in the beginning, I think it takes a little while for Chinese to warm up. I think relationship building is very important in China. The saying we says, relationship can only get you this far. It's true. It's not going to solve all the problem, but without relationship, you go nowhere. So it's quite important to understand that. Just spend some time, be patient, to nurture that relationship. And the second, I think, is absolutely crucial is to find a trustworthy, strong local partners to help you to navigate in the China market. It is a massive market, and it was huge potential, for any company to go big, but it's also quite complicated, especially for edtech, in China. I think as of 2019, top 10 out of the top 10 world edtech unicorns, 7 of them are born in China. So just tell you the kind of the side, the scalability is definitely there.
It's amazing.
But you need to have a very strong local partners to help you to navigate, because the regulations and also it's big countries, depends on where you go, and in different provinces has a different kind of
localization
policies.
needs and so on.
Exactly.
And how do you find a local partner?
Oh, that's a very good question. Everybody's like, how do you find that?
No, everybody here is to say, I need a local partner.
Well, first, hire me.
Juliette, number. Look.
Well, I think it's it's important to, for me, like finding a local partner is a lot of effort, also a bit of luck. I have to say, like you need to put yourself out there, like attending conference like Israeli EdTech Summit, and also maybe EdTech Asia Summit. It will. Such a conference can bring a lot of smart people together, and you will, meet a lot of interesting people, like-minded people, right? And from there, you can start to identify, because at the end of the day, you enter into a partnership. It's almost like entering a marriage, right? It's not just find how great this person is, how capable he or she is. It's about like, okay, can we work well together, right? There's very important things, it's like personalities, all that stuff. So you wanted to also have that kind of match as well, right? And also build that trust. So it takes time, I have to say, but I do believe that it works for the time, because you don't want to enter a marriage or a partnership with someone who you met and you think, oh, okay, great, you check most of the boxes, but not all of them, so fine, then I've seen a lot of companies failed in China miserably as well, because they, even with the strong local partners, it didn't work out. Because in the end, whatever reason, there's organization issues, there's leadership issues, all that stuff, right? So it's very important. But that being said, like it is true. It's hard to do all the due diligence, right? Sometimes you just have to have a little bit leap of faith, right, to enter that kind of partnership. But definitely do enough due diligence to make sure that you're comfortable to
do this leap of faith.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need patience. We need a local partner.
Local partners.
And we need to build the relationship.
Build a relationship.
And to be patient again.
To be patient. Yeah. I guess.
Those main things. Juliette, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It was very interesting.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to say, it's this is my this is not my first time in Israel, but I have to say I really started growing Israel. Like I love the country, the people here. So I really, really hope that we can do more, not just business or even culture exchange between China and Israel going forward. Yeah.
Wow,
and I highly recommend you guys to come to visit me in China. Please do.
Okay, so we will come.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.